You have been empty for years without realizing it. You crave approval, yet every compliment vanishes as soon as it lands. You chase recognition like it will fill the hollowness inside, and it never does. You tell yourself it is about confidence, about self-worth, but is it really yours? Every like, every nod, every subtle glance feeds something within you, yet leaves the same longing behind. You are addicted to reflection, addicted to the mirror of other people's eyes, and you think this is normal. The thoughts that whisper, "Am I enough?" are not mistakes. They are signals of an unseen hunger. Have you ever noticed how the emptiness returns even when everyone agrees you are worthy? Have you questioned why a simple approval feels insufficient? Why no amount of praise ever settles your mind, and yet you keep seeking it, unaware that something deeper has been moving, shaping, deciding who you are beneath the surface? It feels safe to depend on others' judgments. But safety is an illusion your brain cannot detect. You think control exists in being seen, in being liked, in being accepted, but this control is a mirage, and this is where most people misunderstand what's really happening. You think seeking validation is a choice, as if you can control who notices, who applauds, and who acknowledges your existence. You believe it's optional. When someone praises you, you feel a fleeting satisfaction, a brief spike of relief, convincing yourself that you can sustain it indefinitely, that the mirror of approval is reliable. You tell yourself it is harmless to want acknowledgement. Everyone wants it. You even argue that it is natural, that it is part of human connection, part of thriving. It feels like control because you can adjust your words, your actions, your social presence, shaping how others see you, tweaking reactions until they align with your expectations. When the responses match what you wanted, you feel calm. When they don't, you panic. This panic reinforces the illusion that control exists only through their eyes. You think being liked guarantees stability, safety, and self-esteem. Yet every compliment is temporary, every nod fragile, every approval contingent, slipping through your fingers like sand you cannot hold. This illusion grows stronger because your mind believes the brain's rewards are real, that these external reflections are meaningful, that others' agreement defines your worth at a fundamental level. You measure your happiness in percentages of recognition, in how well your image matches the desired reflection. And you believe this measurement is accuracy, but it is not. It seems rational to assume control through attention, yet the more you seek, the less you actually have because your dependence on others is invisible to you, yet total. And this is where things become uncomfortable. If this is already making sense to you, it means you're starting to notice patterns most people never see. Subscribe and let's keep exploring how the mind really works. Now, this is where things start to get uncomfortable. You have believed that attention from others fills a void inside, yet the void persists even when everyone nods, smiles, or applauds. The satisfaction never lasts. The first unsettling truth is that your mind rewards dependence. Each compliment, each acknowledgement strengthens a cycle, teaching you to crave, to wait, to anticipate external validation constantly. You may have noticed how quickly contentment fades. A kind word excites you today, and tomorrow its echo is gone. The emotional relief is borrowed, not owned. This craving feels personal, like a weakness of character, but it is not. It is a learned neural pattern, a deeply conditioned survival mechanism, silently shaping every interaction. Your brain interprets external approval as safety, as survival, as belonging because once so long ago belonging kept you alive, kept the group's protection intact, yet now it is a ghost of itself. The mechanism persists without need. Your brain does not question relevance. It responds instinctively, producing tension when the approval is absent. This tension masquerades as emptiness, as inadequacy, as personal failure. but it is merely a misfiring of a system that once protected you, now misaligned with your true self. You cannot reason this away because logic cannot override repetition ingrained over decades. Your mind does not respond to what is rational, it responds to what is rehearsed. And this is where most people misunderstand what's really happening. From the earliest moments, your brain observed patterns, smiles, nods, praise. They became signals. Your mind learned that approval equaled safety, that disapproval equaled threat. Every interaction was a lesson. Neural pathways strengthened each time you received attention, each time a word or glance affirmed your existence. The repetition embedded craving so deeply it feels instinctive, unavoidable, automatic. Even small gestures, likes on a post, compliments in passing, activate reward circuits in the brain. Dopamine floods, creating a fleeting sense of security. You chase this chemical echo repeatedly. Your brain does not distinguish between survival-based necessity and social convenience. It simply remembers what worked before. Validation became a shortcut, a map for navigating uncertainty in a chaotic environment, and the pattern is reinforced subtly. Negative feedback triggers stress hormones. A sense of threat. Your body reacts as if life is at stake, though the danger is purely social. Over time, the conditioned craving grows invisible, masquerading as personality traits. I need approval becomes I care about others, or I just want connection. But underneath is neural reinforcement. This is why rational advice, lectures, or self-talk rarely succeed. The brain circuits are not convinced by argument, they respond to repeated patterns of reward and avoidance. Each craving serves a hidden payoff, something your mind has learned to protect as essential. Even when it produces suffering, you are trapped in an invisible loop. And this is where things become uncomfortable. The brain receives more than chemical rewards when validation arrives. It feels protected, seen, and momentarily powerful. The mind convinces itself that this external approval is survival itself. Even fleeting praise creates a sense of control, a temporary armor against internal uncertainty. The ego whispers that if others recognize you, you are enough. And when approval is withheld, discomfort arises, anxiety, self-doubt, and restlessness surge, proving that the brain has intertwined worth with external acknowledgement. This payoff is subtle yet potent. Each instance of seeking reassurance strengthens circuits designed to chase it, making independence feel risky and alien. Ironically, the very comfort the brain craves becomes the source of tension. You are conditioned to feel incomplete until mirrored by others' recognition. Even self-deception plays a role. You justify the pursuit with narratives of connection or collaboration, while underneath, your brain is quietly reinforcing dependency. The mind rewards attention and reinforces avoidance of rejection, not because it is wise, but because it has learned to survive through social affirmation. This hidden payoff explains why logical reasoning alone cannot undo the craving. Your patterns feel personal, inescapable, and somehow justified in the story of your life. And this is where it connects deeply with your identity. Over time, seeking validation becomes more than a habit. It molds who you believe yourself to be. Your worth is no longer internal. It is externalized and fragile. The mind silently convinces you that needing others' approval is part of your character, part of your essential self. You tell yourself, "This is just who I am." Logic and reasoning rarely work here. Pointing out flaws or urging self-reliance feels foreign, almost threatening. The pattern is no longer behavior, it is identity itself. Even attempts at independence are filtered through this lens. You wonder if your choices will be accepted before you make them. Anxiety whispers. Your ego silently trembles. The trap is subtle, invisible. You are not aware of the invisible chains, yet they determine your reactions, your moods, your decisions, and your sense of completeness. What feels like vulnerability is actually habituated dependency. each moment of needing. Reassurance reinforces the illusion that your internal world cannot sustain itself alone. Even self-criticism plays into this trap. The more you judge yourself for seeking validation, the more you reinforce the belief that you cannot stand alone. It becomes clear that the problem is not external. No person, comment, or compliment can free you from this invisible narrative embedded in your identity. But to see a new way of relating to yourself, you must first step outside the mirror of others' eyes. What if seeking validation was never weakness, but a signal, not a flaw to erase, but information about how your mind learned to survive connection? The need for approval stops looking like desperation when you see it as a protective strategy, formed long before you had conscious choice or language. Your mind was not trying to impress others. It was trying to stay safe, connected, and emotionally regulated in environments where belonging felt uncertain. Seen this way, validation seeking is not evidence of emptiness. It is evidence of sensitivity, adaptation, and intelligence shaped by earlier emotional conditions. The suffering begins only when you misinterpret the signal, when you believe the behavior defines you rather than informs you about an unmet internal relationship. Nothing needs to be forced away. No part of you needs to be silenced. The struggle softens when observation replaces judgment, and curiosity replaces resistance. The refrain is subtle. You are not removing attachment to people. You are loosening attachment to the meaning their reactions have held inside you. When that meaning changes, behavior follows naturally, without effort, without discipline, without conflict between who you are and who you think you should be. And this shift does not arrive loudly. It announces itself quietly, almost unnoticed, like a pause between thoughts you never questioned before. At first, nothing dramatic happens. You still notice the impulse to seek reassurance, but it no longer feels urgent or dangerous. There is space between the impulse and your response, not control, not suppression, just a small gap where awareness gently rests. In that space, the body relaxes before the mind does. The tension softens. The emotional charge loses its sharp edge. You begin to notice how often validation was used to escape discomfort, not because you were empty, but because silence once felt unsafe. Now silence feels different, not lonely, not threatening, just neutral, a place where nothing needs to be proven or defended. You stop scanning faces for approval. You stop replaying conversations, not because you tried to stop, but because the habit lost its purpose. The emptiness you feared never arrives. What appears instead is a quiet steadiness, unfamiliar but grounding, like standing without leaning for the first time. And this is when a deeper question emerges, not from anxiety, but from clarity, asking who you are when no one is watching. At some point, the mind turns inward without effort, noticing patterns that once felt invisible, now gently illuminated without judgment or emotional urgency. You begin to see how often your worth was negotiated externally, traded silently for attention, reassurance, or emotional permission to exist comfortably. This realization does not bring shame. It brings recognition, a quiet acknowledgement of how carefully you learn to adapt to uncertain emotional landscapes. The mirror shows no failure. It shows a nervous system doing its best with the tools it had. Long before awareness entered the picture, you see the younger versions of yourself clearly now, not as weak, but as responsive, sensitive, and deeply attuned to emotional cues. In this reflection, there is no demand to change, only an invitation to understand what was carried forward without conscious consent. The mind grows quieter here, not empty, not numb, just less crowded with interpretations that once demanded constant external confirmation. And in that stillness, a subtle realization forms, asking whether validation was ever the thing you truly needed at all. This is not the end of seeking. It is the end of mistaking seeking for identity. and mistaking approval for emotional oxygen. The habit may still appear at times. Old pathways do not disappear instantly. They simply lose authority when awareness remains present. What replaces validation is not confidence, not independence, not strength, but a quieter relationship with yourself that does not require witnesses. This relationship cannot be rushed. It unfolds naturally in moments where you notice yourself choosing presence over performance without conscious effort. If something here unsettled you, linger with it. Discomfort often marks the edge of understanding, not a problem to escape. Stay curious about what you noticed. Stay with the silence between reactions. That is where the real shift continues unfolding. And if you return here again, it will not be for answers, but to recognize something you already sensed forming within you.